Good afternoon, everyone. We're here this afternoon to go to this is the third in the series of our webinars on gathering and preserving heritage. So it's really great to see so many faces, some new ones as well. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming along this afternoon. We're trying to run quite a tight ship with timing so we can get everybody in. The programme for today was we'll be hearing from Kirklees Local TV, Leeds Pavilion Archive, Novice to Know-How, Manage Your Collections, and then hopefully we'll have a questions and answer panel at the end. There will be an opportunity to ask questions after each speaker has spoken. You can either put your hand up virtually on Zoom, there's a little button down the bottom, I do believe, or you can just type your questions in the chat and one of us will pick it up and we'll ask them at the end. So we should get on because we're running a few minutes behind already. First speaker this afternoon is from Kirklees Local TV. They were this year's winners of the Gathering Heritage and Preserving. And I shall hand over in a minute to Milton Brown and Heather Norris-Nichols. Just to give you a little bit on this project, it is a wonderful project that's focused on collecting the journeys and experiences and heritage of Huddersfield's local African community descent, African community descent. The awards panel were very impressed by the archival work that's being done by this project, and it's not a typical archive of collecting. And they are working hard to introduce new audiences from a different place rather than waiting for them to walk into a museum or a similar site. They're a very exciting project and very deserving winners of this year's awards. So I will hand over to Milton and Heather.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, you said it now. Should we go? Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks very much to Community Archives and Heritage Group for today's event, and for all those people who are attending. So it's a really great honor to receive this award this year and to gain recognition for our contribution to making heritage archives more inclusive and accessible. So my name is Heather Norris-Nicholson, and I helped Milton Brown, who's down there, of Kirklees Local TV to coordinate the project. Between 2018 and 2020, a core of 16 volunteers plus a lot of others took part in Windrush the years after, and to deliver this project. We were funded by the National Lottery Fund. Our project was devised, developed and delivered for about Huddersfield's or members of Huddersfield's African Caribbean descent community. You'll soon see that it was much more than a film. And we feel that it really shows the power of digital media to reach out and also reach in. So say something about Milton, can you just go back just briefly? Yeah, thank you. I just want to say something about the project and its vision. And yes, the project was very much about making the recent history of the African Caribbean community in Huddersfield, West Yorkshire, much better known, because it is relatively unknown and it's unrecorded. There are very few visible signs in Huddersfield, no blue plaques, no statues, no identifiable buildings. You know, where it is in people's memories. Older people's memories in particular, and in people's experiences. So our project recognized those memories and experiences needed to be gathered and saved and made accessible so that people of all ages and from all backgrounds might enjoy them and learn from them. So we use digital media to make that possible, to make accessible everyday stories and memories that aren't very well known at all beyond Huddersfield's African Caribbean community. And what we did was to allow those people to tell their stories in their own words and reflect upon experiences that have also national and international understanding. So that's the vision of it. Now we can go to the next slide. I think rather than just talking, what we want to do is just say show the video. So we're going to show a tiny clip of it. So sit back and enjoy. It's just over 3 minutes, and I think this says it much better than I can possibly. I'm going to click it and just hope it works.
The Windrush generation are seen as those Caribbeans who came to Britain between 1948 to 1971.
We can hear it, Heather, but we can't see it.
You can hear it, but you can't see it.
Yeah. I think it's that share screen again. I think you need to stop sharing and find the box again and share that separately. A bit like we
so. Ah, got it. My apologies. Never share. Is that better? Can you see that now?
I'm seeing a list of folders.
No, I can't see it.
I can see it on my second screen.
Seen as those Caribbeans who came to Britain
Or I
between
did.
1948 to 19.
Can we just bring it up on the? I thought.
And grandchildren.
No, I'll solve it. This is. Let's have a look.
Lorna's just said, is it
we just
possibly on
put
your
our YouTube
Chrome
notes in?
tab?
Yeah. So I'm going to stop sharing. Heather, I'm viewing your screen. You've got to press
the link.
Yeah, that's a good point, Milton. We can see your screen, Heather, not Milton's. I think.
Yeah.
I think we want. Yeah.
Right.
Here we go.
So if I press share
Can you
my
see my screen?
Just 1 second, Heather. So can you see that video now, ladies and gents?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we just put it
Right,
back to
and
the
I'm going to
beginning?
start it again.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yes.
The Windrush generation are seen as those Caribbeans who came to Britain between 1948 to 1971. But what about the children and grandchildren of those economic migrants who came to Britain in search of a better life? This story is about migration of African Caribbeans who were invited to Britain in 1948 by the government and came to settle in Huddersfield, West Yorkshire. It's about their tears, laughter, hopes, aspirations, and fears, bringing to light the challenges of navigating race and defining multiple identities in the celebration of their heritage, tradition, rituals, faith, and culture. We hear authentically the voices of those economic migrants from the Caribbean and their children.
They came with a suitcase, or they came with their little possessions, and they came with a dream, and they came with a vision, and there was the 5-year plan to work your money, and then you're away for 5 years.
My cousin said to me, "Are you hungry?" And I said, "Yes." And we went to a fish and chip shop up at Woodhouse Hill. And the fish and chips was in the newspaper, just like how we were taught. We were told that it was like when we're in Jamaica.
We've been here so long. Years gone by when we were having all sorts of obstruction and what we were standing from, and we this and we had.
I got fish and chips. Guess what? I didn't know that you were to put the vinegar and the salt on it.
The first carnival was in 1957. 1957, when I just come to Huddersfield.
I'm eating the fish and chips like that. I'm like, oh my word, God, it's not taste good at all. This was because I'm accustomed to the Jamaican way.
No job to black. That is the one that hurt.
My parents certainly didn't like it, but there was very little my parents could do about it. It was keep your head down, and do what you can, but there were no one to turn to. My parents couldn't go and talk with anybody. I couldn't go and talk with anybody.
I don't think we have learned to process that pain.
A struggle for freedom, a celebration of courage and resilience in spite of explicit structural and institutional discrimination. We learn how they navigated their way into British society, and how the Huddersfield African Caribbean community remains resolute, determined, and moving forward.
For many, they stayed and had children, and they achieved their goals through their children.
Excellent.
Okay, so can you hear? A video that, sorry, a documentary that's 70 minutes long. There were 80 plus interviews, plus hundreds of hours of film testimony and new research. We also developed our own page on Facebook and social media profile. So Milton will tell you more about how we made the local history better known.
Go on, Adam. I'm listening.
So, well, we showed the film in lots of different ways, and we held private screenings for community elders and to all those that helped in some way. We showed it to students, to civil servants in London, in local libraries, and to a lot of different invited audiences. Each screening was accompanied by a question and answer opportunity. We ran workshops in schools, hosted pop-up and drop-in set events in all sorts of different centres. We reached into the heart of the community. We had to cancel events since March 2020, but we hope to rearrange them when possible. So that's that. And I'd like to just say something else, I think, to the next slide, unless you want to, Milton. So next slide, please. Our task was to gather and share materials to create a digital media heritage resource to inform, to inspire, and to tell a national story from a local perspective. We wanted to celebrate, we wanted to commemorate, and we also wanted to motivate in cross-generational and cross-community ways. So what did we do? Well, the slide says it. We edited and we archived interviews, we scanned materials, we produced materials in lots of different forms to reach lots of different audiences. We interviewed historians, we visited other libraries and other archives. We produced a digital catalogue for materials we have deposited currently at the University of Huddersfield, where we also held exhibitions and screenings. We created educational materials, we wrote for different audiences, and we did a number of different things. So that's it. So shall we have the next slide? Just a little bit more about the project and ourselves. KLTV has so much past experience in media production, working at grassroots level, that underpinned the success of Windrush the years after. KLT's mission is to engage, to empower, and allow local voices to be heard. And yeah, that's what the project entailed. But we did need volunteers to make it happen. And they came, importantly, they came from diverse backgrounds, from different language backgrounds, different faiths, different continents, different age groups, and a whole bunch of different circumstances, each with very different levels of commitment, confidence, self-esteem, health and well-being, each with something to give and something to learn. So, and amazingly, we still have volunteers helping to take things forward, still working on teaching materials, media productions, writing, and waiting to rearrange events cancelled due to the pandemic. Milton, do you want to take us forward into this slide?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Very little is known about the history of African descendant cultural and social history. 1948 is probably where most of us always start, from the Windrush to 1972. But what about the children of that generation? We're into 4 generations now, 5. I guess where we were different, our actions were different and innovative. Anthropology, ethnography, autoethnography, action-based research learning, experiential learning, oral history and videography. We used all of that to work with them. One of the key things that binds all of that is just listening to authentic voices and to some degree being comfortable whilst feeling uncomfortable. My parents are from Jamaica. There were people I was interviewing from St. Kitts, Barbados. There were white females who have been married to Carriacou citizens and so on and so forth. So for me, as a British-born African descendant, it was a social and cultural history learning for me also. And some of the things they had to say about each other, a bit like the Irish, the Scottish, and the Welsh, and the Irish, Scottish, Welsh, and English is similar across all the islands. There isn't unity, but there is a central narrative which binds them together, and it's called West Indian. We brought in the church. We went to the church. We went to community groups, community commentators, homes of retirement homes of those who came here in the late 40s and now have retired into retirement homes. It was an absolute joy, very emotional, but we listened and learned without prejudice. And I think that is the real power of KLTV. And Heather touched on it already. If you've seen some of the pictures, we had Muslim, Indian Muslim, Pakistani Muslim. We had people from right across the Caribbean, English, Scottish. We even had somebody from Barnsley, other side. It may as well be in another country, being Barnsley, and so on and so forth. But we learned from each other, and we learned from the community, and we put them absolutely at the very forefront of everything we did. Let's move it on. The benefits and the wider impact are endless. I'm just going to name a few, but inspire the community by providing a platform for them to access and share their authentic voices. We contributed to the national discourse around, and we do say it's Black social history, but some of us say Black social misery whilst being here. But they've done it in a very dignified way, in a celebratory way, in a resilient way, and a very proud way. One of the challenging things was when I asked our interviewers, Heather was part of the interviewing team, Khadija, as you can see this slide, all those folks you see on the slides were all part of but when you asked people from African descent, and I'm sure it's the same with other migrating communities, they remember all the negatives. And that was telling. And when they shared that, some of the stories, as a child, I kind of understood a little bit, but when they went through the DNA and the detail of that story, it brought all my childhood memories back. It also linked, as you can see, Nabila on there as a Pakistani woman when her parents came here. And to the bottom left, you'll see Khadija, who's a Gujarat Muslim, an Indian, and at the same time it brought things to her. And Joe there were issues of working class, issues that it almost just cut right across all the cultural boundaries. For me, it was a huge awakening because I never realized that the country was probably more class as opposed to race. When everybody got to start to share their stories, I went, they've been through that just as much as I have, but mine was race, theirs were class, Khadija and Nabila, perhaps religion, and so on and so forth. So the benefits of that was it became a seamless journey for all of us, learning about each other, which strengthened our own history. We also archived invaluable history while creating history with the University of Huddersfield. And at the same time, a celebration of the African descent or people of African descent social cultural history, which is now in the conscientious minds of those who never once had the opportunity to neither learn more or work closer with people of African descent on this project. All in all, we had about 80 volunteers. And I would argue probably around 35 different nationalities. Yeah, the sustainable legacies, having conversations about heritage now. We're working with the local libraries much more. We have, we've just produced an NHS and the Caribbean connection with the University of Huddersfield. That's another big project that was well received during Black History Month. I can see a lot more confidence of institutions reaching out more to find out more and feeling much more comfortable with working with an organization like ours, which is diverse. And just what I've said earlier on, it's just creating absolute new possibilities all over. From this, we are working with Kirkley Psychological Services when they're working with children from African descent. What are the historical factors that they need to know about? And looking at coaching opportunities to develop new ideas that when you're working with marginalized communities, and this is how it's transcending most communities, when you're working with marginalized communities, there is a central narrative about difference and marginalization. One may have it because of religion, one may have it because of culture, another one may have it because of race. And what I found even more interesting, that even within these diverse communities, there is diversity and division as well. So it's very complex. So they're you know, the psychological services are welcome the work. We're working with them very closely to understand the nature of diversity and difference. A big major thank you to CAG and everybody who's given us this opportunity. You know, history belongs to everybody, and in my humble opinion, it should be shared very much with each other. Without learning from each other, then I can't see any way forward for humanity, basically, and that's not trying to be some hippie and you know, a globalist person. This project really did challenge the hearts and minds of those who wanted to know, and it also challenged those who maybe not wanted to know but were forced because it was so compelling. A 70-year history of a demographic of people who came here and were marginalized institutionally but still came through. And that to me is everybody's history. How you deal with resilience and how you overcome adversity. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions there. Heather's dropped out, and may I apologize, I have another meeting at about 4 o'clock, so I may have to jump out, but Heather might be in by then. So my humble apologies for that. Yep, over to you, Alan, thank you.
All right, yes.
I was going to say, thank
sorry.
you, Milton. Yeah.
No,
Have we got any immediate questions for Milton or Heather? Nothing springing up. The only request we have had, Milton, if it's possible, from Jackie, could you paste the link of your YouTube video into the chat if possible, so people can then go back and watch it again?
Put it into the chat now, yeah?
Yeah, if that's possible, that would be brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that before I leave, and I'll copy and paste it into the chat.
Brilliant. Yep. Thank you. If there's no immediate questions, should we move on to our next?
Joe's got one, I think.
Yeah. Fantastic. So inspiring. I just wondered, in terms of your legacy and sustainability, do you have any funding going forward now, or is that it for the project?
Thank you for that question, John. Great question. We operate in the community. We've got high social capital within our own community. And then if you think about the demographic, we link with Sheffield, Leeds, Bradford. With regards to the legacy, we have over something like maybe 50 biographies of about 45 minutes. Easy 60 terabyte worth of information that we haven't even touched. Yeah. And what we want to do, the legacy, is to create a grassroots archives that is accessible to schools, the library, where we are driving it from the community to these institutions, as opposed to we take our history to the libraries take a photocopy of it. And many of my elders and peers will never walk into the library because they're fearful of discrimination and racism. So it makes good sense to drive it from the community, from a community-based property, that people come in and access the information that way. That's the legacy we're looking at. And with regards to funding, no funding in the immediate, but we are working very hard at looking at creative ways to have this. We have the infrastructure, we just don't have the money to build the archive. Thank you.
Thank you, Milton. Amazing project, and I mean this is exactly why community archives are so important to be able to provide and allow access to this kind of information that we just don't see anywhere else. So right.
Can I just make one quick point about the documentary? It's an hour and 15 minutes long. We were showcasing it all over the country. We must have showcased it now. About 8,700 people had seen it up until March, and then COVID came in. So we've had to freeze that. But we are definitely looking at ways of launching this particular project, that it can be accessible to schools, universities, and we're talking with University of Huddersfield to develop it as a learning resource in there, as a module for their history department.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Someone shared their screen.
Might be the next
I
presenter.
think that's Heather again, isn't it?
I'm just trying to get in. I don't know. Am I?
Oh,
Can I
that's-
stop sharing?
Yeah, I look very big there. Let's not. I'm keeping an eye on the Zoom, Donna. I see Mark Harain has his hand up. I don't know if you see that.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
I work with Joe on the Leeds Pavilion Archive project, and I must say this is a fantastic winner. You know, it's a really deserving project. It's really interesting and quite relevant at the moment. You know, you mentioned that COVID came along, and I'm sure we're all suffering in various ways and facing new challenges with the restrictions. But I'm interested, you know, with the huge rise in Black Lives Matter in America and even here, has that seen an increase in people becoming aware of you and asking questions and coming to you?
Thank you for the question, Mark. It's a real interesting one because I'm the CEO of KLTV, but we have a very diverse organization. So all of a sudden, because the one African male who's the CEO of KLTV, there seems to be an interest that it's a Black-run organization, and it's not. Yeah, it's very, very diverse, and we share our cultural capital with each other consistently. So as KLTV as a brand, Windrush the years after, we try and keep a very balanced view on, we don't want to be seen as the project that can deal with the Black Lives Matter agenda because it's so complex, and that will take another hour to explain. And we want to be seen as a group of diverse individuals, professional in what we do, and we are creating historical archives on every culture. We've got the Kurdish, we've done things on the Muslim community, we've done things with the Jewish community, and so on and so forth. The LGBT community we've worked with as well. That's what we want to be seen as. But it's CEO, you know, he's seen as this very important person in every organization. Because he's Black, all of a sudden there's a call here, there's a call there, but Heather will do a good job on that just as well as I could. Ryan could do a good job on that just as well as I could. And that's how we roll with what we do. But thanks for the question.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Now moving on to our next speakers this afternoon. This group were worthy runners-up of the Gathering Heritage Award and deserved a special mention, and they've agreed to come along and share their project with us this afternoon. Leeds Pavilion is a permanent community archive that was launched in April 2019 to preserve and share the history of the Pavilion Club and to make access available to all. And we've got Joe joining us today to tell us more about it. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I chickened out and asked Alan to do my slides for me. I'm actually sitting out or maybe not the notes view.
No,
Alan.
that's okay.
Then everybody will be able to see I'm reading from a script. So I'm in Malawi at the moment. So if the internet goes down, as Alan put it, I've appointed a wingman who's Liz Mulqueen to step in as my understudy. And if she disappears because she's in France, Mark Hourain will step in, who's our webmaster. If we can go to the second slide, Alan, please. Thank you. So as I talk you through the history of the Leeds Pavilion, I'll be using illustrations from the archive. So if you do get a bit bored, you can always go on the archive and have a bit of a surf through and see some of the illustrations more closely. So what is the Leeds Pavilion? The Leeds Pavilion, as it is now, is a very dilapidated building on the Lees, which is the seafront promenade in Folkestone, Kent. The wonderful project that Milton has described. There are no, it's not in the memories of people, it's actually a building on the seafront. And you can see from the slide that it's built partly underground and the architect's drawings, hand-drawn drawings by Reginald Pope are there on the slide in front of you. Okay, on to the next one. So the pavilion was built in 1902 as a high class, and I underline that given the previous project, a high class Edwardian tea room, constructed mostly below ground level so as not to block the light from the surrounding buildings. It was a fine building with a terracotta front facade, Art Nouveau style building, windows on the shops by the entrance, and an impressive staircase down to the tea room. The tea room was the place to be seen in Folkestone's Edwardian heyday, extremely exclusive, with its palm court appearance, delicious refreshments with an on-site bakery and fashionable concert parties. Take a look at this illustration of the gallery tea rooms, because we'll come back to that. Next, please, Alan. So I'll whiz you through a quick history of the building. So a few years after opening, a small stage was added under the far gallery, and the pavilion began to offer staged entertainments such as the Cabaret Kittens and other popular vaudeville acts. In 1928, a full stage and rows of seating were introduced, which marked the start of the building's history as a theatre. And in 1929, Arthur Brough and his wife, Elizabeth Addyman, were engaged by the directors initially as an experiment, offering repertory theatre for 10 weeks alongside other entertainments. The Arthur Brough players were a great success and stayed in Folkestone eventually for 40 years. Soon the Broughs moved on to television work. So you may remember Mr. Granger in Are You Being Served? That was Arthur Brough. And from 1970, 3 different companies ran the theatre. But failing attendances and lack of funding meant that the theatre was forced to close at the end of the 1985 season. The building was converted into the Lees Club with a popular bar, a bowling alley, pool tables, but times were hard and the club closed in around 2010. Since then, the building has fallen into disrepair. Next, please. I'll take a slurp. So preservation and restoration, the Friends of the Leas Pavilion, of which Liz is the chair, have campaigned since 2015 to restore the building and have engaged Folkestone residents, the local creative community, former actors and celebrities in supporting our efforts. Here on the left of the slide, you can see the Saccone Quartet filming a concert inside the dilapidated building earlier this year. If you go onto the archive website, you can take a 360-degree tour inside the building, filmed last year on a GoPro camera. Finally, this year, planning permission has been granted for a developer to build residential flats above and adjacent to the pavilion. The developer has undertaken to fully restore the building, taking the interior back to its original 1902 appearance. As you can see in the CGI on the right, by the architect Guy Holloway. So think back to that image before of the Palm Court Tea Room. The developer has also agreed to maintain community access to the building for concerts and other events, not a theatre, but community events, and to provide exhibition and storage space for the Leas Pavilion archive. Yay! The designs for the new flats, I think I can say, have not met with universal approval, but that is another story. And if you want to follow that further, you can access the developer's project website, and there's a short form web address there. Next, please, Alan. So 2 carrier bags. Rewinding the story by 2 years, the future for the Leas Pavilion was looking pretty bleak. The building was deteriorating. The owners at the time were not interested in cooperating with the Friends in seeking funding to restore the listed building. The fear was demolished and operated most likely as an underground car park for a previous planned development, which actually was never built. It was around that time that Liz, the chair of the Friends, was handed 2 carrier bags, which turned out to be to contain a collection of theatre memorabilia from the attic of a former member of staff of the Leas Pavilion. She had collected dozens of theatre programmes, posters, photographs and press cuttings over the last 20 years of the pavilion's time as a theatre. These 2 carrier bags turned out to be the inspiration and the first items in the collection of the Leas Pavilion Community Archive. Myself and 1 or 2 key members of the Friends decided that we needed to preserve and share the history of the Pavilion and Club as a heritage asset and make it available to all in case the building itself did not survive. What we didn't know was that this would involve establishing an archive or how to do it. I would say, as far as this event goes, we qualified for the Novice to Know How award. Next slide, please. I'm just going to tell my husband to stop phoning me. Right, what one quickly discovers in these projects is that it's very important to find enthusiastic people who know what they're talking about and who are willing to share their knowledge. We found the right person at the right time twice. We were incredibly fortunate to be put in touch with Christine Waterman, a professional archivist who was supervising a team of volunteers who run the St. Margaret's Village Archive just up the coast from Folkestone. Christine invited us to visit their office space, where she showed us how they scanned, catalogued and stored the numerous documents you can see in the picture, telling the history of St Margaret's Village, and then how this information was made accessible on the community website. Around the same time, we made contact with the Heritage Centre in Folkestone Library, where we met our second influencer, Rob Illingworth, who's the Kent Archives Heritage Services Officer. Rob was absolutely key in pointing us towards information, including CAHG information about how to catalogue an archive, and then what permissions would be required to publish that information. In doing so, we also signed a partnership agreement, which meant that all the Leeds Pavilion memorabilia held by Kent Archives, and there was quite a lot, would be digitised and made available to the general public through the Leeds Pavilion Archive website. We also discovered the joys of copyright and Creative Commons licenses. Next slide, please. So, as well as meeting the right people at the right time, as a project, we benefited from being in the right place at the right time, again, twice. Our plans to develop an archive coincided with the final round of the Coastal Revival Fund, a government initiative which was drawing to a close. We met with the Folkestone Mayor, someone very interested in heritage, and the Folkestone Town Clerk, who was the local representative on the coastal communities team. And they were both very supportive of our plans. We kind of just stuck a finger in the air and came up with a figure of £20,000, and were totally astonished when we were only one of 25 projects to receive funding out of several hundred applications. So this grant enabled us to complete within a very short timescale what you see on the screen: collection, cataloguing and digital preservation of material, production and display of interpretation panels for an exhibition, and website development and content management software. So our earlier contact from St Margaret's Archive warmly recommended the web developers' community sites, known to some of us here, I think. And we were extremely fortunate to coincide with a short window of opportunity in their work schedule, which meant they could develop our website within our very tight expenditure deadline, literally just 2-3 months. Not only that, but Kids had just completed the design of a new performance listing module, which meant that every item within our archive catalogue could be cross-referenced with the performance with which it was associated. So there's no doubt that without community sites advice and guidance, our website would not be as informative and interactive as it is. And without their training, our volunteers, which includes myself and our excellent webmaster, Mark Hurain, who you met just now, would have struggled to manage our operation. Next slide, please, Alan. Thank you. So although our inspiration was the contents of those 2 carrier bags, the Leeds Archive has been responsible for gathering and preserving memories and artefacts associated with a much loved part of Folkestone's heritage. We held a number of memory cafes where older residents could reminisce about visits to the theatre, and also contacted local drama and history societies. Former actors, crew and staff members contacted us through the website, which was fascinating. Our request for memorabilia turned up many more carrier bags full of theatre programmes to add to our collection. And I should say, scanning, cataloguing and uploading all this information is a considerable workload, and we would welcome more volunteers to assist us in this task. We've sought to reach new audiences by promoting the Leeds Pavilion Archive through our major town centre exhibition last year, through our social media channels, and through local broadcasters such as the radio centre based at Folkestone Academy. We're particularly proud of 3 major collaborations which have enabled us to link with inspiring young individuals, specialist academics and local heritage champions. Folkestone College creative computing students provided the innovative graphic design for our website and exhibition. We're working towards a hands-on history workshop with the University of Kent, and we're just developing a new partnership with Folkestone Museum. Next, please, Alan. I just quickly want to highlight our major collaboration with the Folkestone College staff and students from the Edge School of Creative and Business. I think I can safely say without their input, the Leeds Pavilion archive would most likely not exist today, or if it did, it would be a rather dry academic listing of dates and artifacts stored in my wardrobe. We provided the college, specifically Jez Giddings, the head of school, with a brief, which was to revive the heritage potential of the Leeds Pavilion to keep the building in the public eye and involve the community while we work towards its restoration. Remember, at the time, we thought it wasn't going to be restored. I would go along to a meeting with Jez, clutching my agenda, and I would come away fizzing with ideas and inspiration for how to take the project forward. Thanks to them, we have a wonderful branding and logo. You can see the style guide on the screen, which respects very much the heritage of the building. And we created the exhibition, which attracted more than 500 visitors, many with their own memories of the pavilion. The college even provided the catering for the reception, and I have to say their carrot cake is sublime. So I'm delighted to say that the college won the AOC Beacon Award for Social Action and Student Engagement last year, and ours was one of the projects which exemplified student involvement in real-life activities alongside their study. And if you'd forgive me, I'd also like to insert a short commercial break here and advertise the services of Sam Hutchings, whose little icon is down the bottom. He was a final year student dedicated to our project and worked tirelessly to produce the branding for the website and the graphic design for the exhibition. I warmly recommend him. So Alan, next slide, please. I would encourage you, if you have time, and I can see from some of the comments coming up that some of you have already done so, take a look at the Leeds Pavilion archive website, scroll through the performances menu or the archive collection menu, read more about the history, share your own memories if you've been. I'd love to know if any of you had ever been to the pavilion or the theatre, and share your comments through the website. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again to Community Archives and the Heritage Group for highly commending us in this category. Well done to Kirklees for their excellent project-worthy winners. And my final slide, Alan, is just a list of contacts if anybody would like to get in touch. Thank you very much.
That's amazing. Thank you, Jo. Round of applause. Do we have any immediate questions for Jo? Let's see if I can see it. I see there's been lots of chat going on and people looking at the website. It looks like an amazing project. I mean, infinitely fascinating. Say what starts with 2 paper bags is amazing, isn't it? I think we've all started that way. I have an office full now that was just the bag that someone gave. There's no immediate hands up or questions at the moment. Remember, at any time you can write a question in the chat, and hopefully at the end we'll have some more time for questions. I don't know if everyone would enjoy a quick 5-minute comfort break, go and grab a cup of tea, visit the toilet, if that's all right with everyone. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, then I'll see you all at 5 past, if that's okay.
Okay.
seems like quite a lot of us are back, so shall we push on? So welcome back, everybody. I hope we're all suitably refreshed with tea and biscuits now. As we move on to our next speaker, I'd like to introduce the head of the workforce development at the Digital Preservation Coalition, and that's Cheryl Meeken. She's here to talk to us about novice to know-how. Welcome, Sharon.
Hi, thank you, Donna. I'm glad to be here today. Let me just share my screen and I can get started. So everybody see that okay?
Brilliant. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm here today to talk a little bit about a training course that we developed on behalf of the UK National Archives, Novice to Know-How, which is about providing the archive sector in the broadest sense with the digital preservation skills that they need to get started with looking after digital content. So I'm going to zip through this quickly. We've got lots to cover today. Right, so I'm going to start off, I'm going to do this in 3 parts, and the first part is why should we care about preserving digital content? So a big infographic on the screen there with lots of information, but basically digital information is at the absolute heart of everything that we do today, be it our social lives, particularly at the moment in the age of COVID, with us all being on Zoom all the time, and Twitter and social media and Facebook, things like that. It's also, of course, at the heart of everything we do at work as well. Excuse me, they estimate that around 294 billion emails are sent every day, which is a crazy number when you really think about it. 65 billion messages being sent over WhatsApp. And the numbers become increasingly staggering when you get into things like like science research. The amount of data that they're producing every day is completely insane, and I think that's obviously been core to efforts to do things like developing the vaccination for COVID-19 and of managing their response to the pandemic. But also it's incredibly important in terms of our documenting the cultural heritage and our communities as well. So understanding how to look after our digital content is fundamental to making sure information survives about our communities and our cultures. And it can disappear really, really quickly as well. So this is a stat from about 10 years ago now, but it still holds true today that at that point, of all of the web links which cited answers to parliamentary questions for about a 10-year period, 40% at that point were broken. And there's lots of other stats out there that read quite in a scary fashion. So the average lifespan of a web page is only estimated at about 90 to 100 days before it's changed, it's moved, or it's deleted. 7 out of 10 scholarly articles that include citations to things online suffer from what they call link rot. So basically saying that the content that they're linking out to is no longer available. We've seen lots of examples of corporate abandonment as well, online digital services that have been offered, often for free by big companies like Google and the like, and then they decide to stop supporting that, and the content disappears. We had a good example a couple of years ago where during an apparently routine server migration at the social media site MySpace, they lost somewhere in the region of 5 million MP3s of tracks from different groups and bands that had published material on their website. And a lot of people are very suspicious as to perhaps it was just that content was costing them too much to be able to look after, so that they just decided to cheekily delete it rather than actually maintain it long term. And unfortunately, people can also be a threat as well. It's a lot of the issues that we face in terms of maintaining digital content in the long term are either due to malicious damage or, unfortunately, human error as well, just a basic mistake. An example from my own career, when I used to work as a digital archivist, we had a consultant come in to do some work on our database systems, and they managed to delete 1.9 terabytes of digital archive material, which thankfully we all got back. But it was just a very simple clicks and providing them with access to the wrong user account, and they were able to delete all of our external deposits up to that date, which was quite a significant amount of material. So information can disappear quickly, and that urban myth that if you put something on the web it's going to be there forever is definitely not true by any sense. So we need to be preserving for a whole bunch of different reasons. In a kind of a corporate world, it might be for kind of legal and regulatory compliance, it might be to increase efficiency. It could be about improving the health of the population. It could be about protecting the environment and making sure information is available. But documenting cultural heritage is an absolutely essential part of that as well, and making sure that we're capturing the digital cultural documents that we are developing as a society. So part two, quick run through what is digital preservation. What am I talking about when we're saying preserving digital content? So there's a lot of kind of research and history into the preservation of traditional media. And as objects, they are kind of robust. If you put them in a cupboard, and as long as you don't get a nasty mold infestation or something, you can go back to it perhaps 100 years later and it'll still be there. It's also tangible. It's something you can hold in your hand. You can see that this is the authentic original document and people will understand what that means. As long as you speak the language that a document was created in, it's going to be independently understandable. So if you speak English and somebody gives you a book in English, you're more than likely going to be able to read that book. And as I said, we have very well developed approaches to preservation of this kind of material. The kind of basics of some aspects of archival science go back like thousands of years. So we've been looking after this material for a really, really long time, and we're experienced as explaining why it's valuable, and that the fact that it's kind of tangible, it makes it kind of more easier for people to understand why it's important to maintain it. But in the digital world, it becomes a whole different ballgame. Digital content is kind of ephemeral by its very nature. So there's not possible to say that this is the original authentic object in the digital world in the way it is with physical material, because one copy of a digital file is exactly the same as another copy. So that's going to cause us problems with actually identifying what it is we need to preserve at the first point. There's also the difficulties around the fact that we need technology to be able to interpret that digital content. Otherwise, it's just ones and zeros on a hard drive. We need to have a computer, we need to have the right software packages to be able to open it up, to render it on screen, and for us to be able to start interpreting the content of it. And obsolescence becomes a really big issue there, because computer hardware becomes obsolete. I think we all know that it takes maybe 5 to 10 years maybe as the maximum lifespan of a PC or a laptop. Software packages become renewed all the time. I can't even begin to think how many versions of Microsoft Word there's been in my lifetime, but it's definitely far more than 10. And how do we manage to keep access to that digital content when these changes are constantly happening? We also need to think about how can we estimate value of something that is intangible, that we can't hold in our hands. So it means that we need to have new skills and solutions to be able to look after digital content, but it's also going to provide us with new opportunities, particularly around the question of access, opening up information to people around the world in ways that we've never been able to do before. So to sum up all that problem, what I'm really saying is that digital data, be it images, documents, spreadsheets, databases, video content, it all has value and it can create opportunities. But access to that material is going to depend on software, hardware, and people with the right skills to be able to operate it. And that technology and those people are going to change over time, which is going to create barriers to access and reuse of the digital content. So we need to be actively managing digital content to protect it and to create opportunities from the digital material that we have. On this slide, I'm just going to show you some of the risks that I've talked about, and risk management is something that we speak about a lot in digital preservation, because ultimately that's what we're doing. We're looking at how do we manage and try and stop from happening the risks that digital content is facing over time. And some of those are things I've mentioned over there, the issues of obsolescence, things coming in a file format that we don't know how to open, viruses or malware getting into our system, but also kind of more kind of process and organizational things as well. Like, it's really important in a digital world to make sure that you have all of the supporting information to go along with something. So documentation to go along with digital content, your basic metadata about what file format something is in, what an image might show, what software package that a textual document was created in. All of that kind of stuff is really important to us being able to preserve digital content in the long term. So ultimately, what is digital preservation? It's the series of managed activities necessary to ensure continued access to digital materials for as long as necessary. So that's really saying that managed activities, it's a proactive process that we need to get in there. And we're all about providing access to the digital content. And it's important as well to really note there that as long as necessary. So we're not necessarily thinking that it has to be in perpetuity, but for as long as this information is going to be potentially useful to us. So part 3, I'm going to talk to you now about what I'm actually here to mention today is the Novice to Know-How Learning Pathway. So a couple of years ago now, the UK National Archives did a survey and found that there was a substantial gap in digital skills in the UK archive sector. And based on those findings, they've developed their plugged-in, powered-up digital strategy, which is a really kind of groundbreaking piece of work looking at developing digital capacity across a huge number of different areas within the UK archive sector. And as part of that, there was a stream with 3 different activities around developing skills and knowledge about digital preservation specifically. And they issued a call to tender as part of that for the development of an online training pathway. So we were lucky enough to win that tender in late 2019 and then started about 4 months of crazy working as fast as it could within a tight deadline to produce the Novice to Know-How Learning Pathway, which is a kind of really robust training course based on good practice and standards for digital preservation. And I always like to point out here that I said good practice and not best practice, because digital preservation is the new discipline and it still remains a moving target. Also, because it's a new mandate, it's something that people aren't doing already. It can lead to failure if you try and set yourself up as going for the best possible solution. You should go for what's good enough for you, depending on what skills and resources that you have available to you. So always best to think about what's good and not necessarily what's best. So the high-level learning objectives of Novice to Know-How is that at the end of the course, learners will be able to actually explain what digital preservation is and understand kind of broadly the different types of activities that are involved in it. They'll be able to prioritise digital preservation actions within their organisation, figure out what you need to do, what you need to do now, and then develop and implement kind of basic digital preservation workflows. And in Novice to Know-How, we're looking at particularly how to select what content we want to preserve, or how to transfer that into our archive or wherever we're going to be looking after the content, and some basic preservation steps that we can do to make sure that the content is going to survive in the long term. And those learning objectives are delivered across 6 learning pathways, 6 courses within the learning pathway. So we start off with an introduction to digital preservation, just setting the scene as to what it is, going into a bit more detail than I did in the previous section. Then we have a course looking at what's actually in a file, what is the kind of the basic unit of digital content, and why are file formats important, and what we call bitstream preservation, which is about making sure that those ones and zeros in the digital content will survive over time. We then have a module on using Droid, which is a really useful tool developed by the UK National Archives to help you with understanding what digital content you have and looking after it in the long term. And then we have 3 modules that are closely linked to specific workflows that you might put in place for digital preservation: select and transfer of digital content, ingesting digital content, which is about processing digital material for preservation, and then actually the preserving digital content itself. Now, this learning pathway has been developed specifically with those working kind of professionally within the archive sector in the UK. So it does have a little bit of a kind of organisational focus, but it does have a lot of content in there as well that would be really useful to people working in community archives as well. So it is worth having a look at Novice to Know-How. It can provide you with instruction on kind of simple, practical steps you can take. It includes tool demos as well, and all of the tools that we cover in that are easy to use tools, things with a kind of low barrier of entry that are easy to get started with. And we've actually recently been expanding the number of tool demos that are in there. So I think we're up to 6 different tools that we have demonstrations of as part of the Novice to Know-How course. You can register for priority places by listing yourself as being part of the UK archive sector, and we do take the archive sector to be at kind of as broad a definition as possible. Basically anybody that has an interest in preserving digital content within the UK will be able to register for one of those priority pages. So I've just realised that I haven't updated this slide from the last time I used them, we have currently registration open for our January intake, but it will be opening this week for February and March as well. And the more content that was coming there as promised is actually now available online. So the course is free to register. There's no cost attached to it. We estimate it takes roughly between 2 to 3 days, depending on how quickly you get through it, to actually work through the content. But you get 4 weeks in which to actually do that, so you can pace your learning as suits your own kind of timetable and schedule. And if you go to that link there, bit.ly/novice to know-how, you'll find the information on how to get registered for the course. Now, I'm not allowed to leave, however, without telling you a little bit about the GPC as well, the organisation I work for, and some of the other resources that we have available if you are doing a little bit of digital preservation work, could help complement the Novice to Know-How course. We are a not-for-profit organisation, a membership organisation, and I've just realised that the numbers on this are out of date, because in the last couple of weeks we've added some new members. We have 111 members around the world, and we exist to help them secure our digital legacy. So we're really a body that exists to support our members and the broader digital preservation community being able to successfully look after digital content. And we do that through advocacy work, through community building, through my area of workforce development, which is about training and skills. And we also do kind of research and good practice and standards work. So we've got a lot of useful resources that are out there that might help you. We have a free online publication called the Digital Preservation Handbook, which complements the Novice to Know-How course really well. It looks at giving a broad introduction to all aspects of digital preservation, and also links out to loads of other resources. We have our Technology Watch and Topic Notes series, which are looking at specific issues. So we have stuff there on web archiving, on personal digital archives, on preserving social media. So kind of useful if you're looking after any of that type of content. We also have a very active blog, which includes lots of different useful case studies. And I also would recommend, if you are going to do any digital preservation work, to think about having a look at the National Archives Digital Preservation Workflows, which was another part of the Plugged In Powered Up project, and lines very closely with Novice to Know-How, and also a site called Copter, which is a tools registry for digital preservation, where you can find out about a wide variety of different tools that are out there to help you do digital preservation work. We're also going to be expanding our own online training offer in the new year. So we currently have just the Novice to Know-How course, but we're also going to be bringing content on things like web archiving and other kind of aspects of digital preservation kind of to a training platform near you soon. So that's everything for me today. If you want to get in touch or ask any more questions after today, then you can check out the DPC website, email me, or also I'm on Twitter as well. And there's a very active digital preservation community on Twitter, which is great to be involved in. So please do consider registering for the course or recommending it to others as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Sharon. I think it's really poignant, especially in these times of COVID, where we're all having to adapt and work differently. And I think we've all had cases of having to identify of working practices and having to go to that scary online place that a lot of people don't even know where to start with, especially in the community. I think having this kind of facility and resources out there that people can access is amazing. I know I sure appreciate it. Do we have any questions for Sharon immediately? Not seeing anyone's hands up. Have I missed anyone, Alan?
Well, I can see, no, I'm just going through the chat. Lots of people saying brilliant, but not asking any questions.
That's okay. I just encourage everybody to think about signing up. We've had over 1,000 people do the course already, and it's getting really good feedback.
Oh, Lorna.
I was desperately trying to find the hand to put it up, but I couldn't find it. Sharon, thanks a million. That was really, really good. I'm just wondering, do you think the Novice to Know-How course would be open to our members in Ireland?
Yeah, at the moment, the way that we're working it is there's priority places for the UK archive sector and DPC members, but we also have a wait list that people from out with those groups can sign up to. And to be honest, we're at this stage now where the kind of initial rush is over, so we're finding that we are getting through the wait list places every month. So yeah, if they can sign up for a wait list place. It is free to anybody worldwide who wants to do the course. It's just that we've got priority for UK archive sector at the moment. We have already had people from 35 different countries do the course, so yeah.
Well, that's excellent news. Thanks very much.
No worries.
Brilliant, thank you for that. Well, hopefully we should have a little bit more time at the end. If anyone else thinks of any questions, again, you can always put it in the chat and we'll pick that up. So I'll introduce our next speaker to us. We've got the Digital Development Officer from the National Archives, and that's Caroline Catchpole, and she's here today to talk to us about managing your collections. So over to you, Caroline.
Great, thanks Donna. And yeah, thank you to the Community and Archives Heritage Group for putting on this webinar today and for inviting me to speak. It's been fascinating hearing about the Kirklees Local TV project and the Leeds Pavilion Archive project. And so yeah, today I'm just going to share my screen with everyone. So I'm going to talk today, hopefully everyone can see that, about manage your collections. So as Donna said, I work at the National Archives. I'm a digital development officer in archive sector development. And so we've heard today sort of that the archive sector is very broad, and at the National Archives we have a leadership remit for the UK archive sector. So I work in archive sector development, and just to sort of give you a bit of context before I sort of dive into talking about manage your collections and cataloguing and all that good stuff, I just want to sort of give you a kind of a brief overview about what we do in archive sector development. So there's different strands of work that we do. So there's some advocacy work with sector stakeholders and non-sector stakeholders within government and within individual archive services. We do a lot of supporting the sector through, we offer some funding support, and as Sharon mentioned in her talk, the digital capacity building strategy, Plugged In, Powered Up, and we also sort of conduct research on sector trends. We offer advice, so that's probably sort of, I guess, the most recent example would be the COVID reopening guidance that we produced during sort of the last few months to help archives sort of back up and running with reopening. There's frameworks and standards that we maintain. So we maintain networks within the sector, and we have the archive accreditation standard. And also encouraging development and knowledge of collections. And that's really my area where I work in the department. And so we have different things that we do with collections. So we run an annual accession survey each year where we ask archives to tell us what they've accessioned in the previous year. We run sales monitoring and we have cultural property work. And then we also work with discovery. And so discovery and manage your collections are sort of interlinked. And so Discovery is the UK national portal for archives, and it's a way for archives to share their information about their collections. And when I kind of think back about today and what we've seen with the community archives projects, describing archive collections and making them available online is the fundamental way that we can promote access to collections, and cataloguing is an important aspect of documenting collections. So cataloguing has a few different functions. So it allows the archive greater intellectual control over their collections by creating accurate descriptions of what you've got. It allows you to identify preservation and conservation needs. Often, when you catalogue a collection, you're looking at the material, so it's a good time for you to assess, whether there's any sort of conservation intervention that's needed. You are able to widen access to your descriptions and the collections themselves, and you can contribute data to archive networks. So obviously, we saw earlier with the Leeds Pavilion archive, they've got a fantastic website and where they can share information about their collections online, and not every archive has that. That it can be quite resource intensive. You need people, you often need money to be able to share your collections online. But a fantastic result of sharing your collections online is that you reach new audiences. And so this is sort of where discovery and manage your collections comes in. So as I said, so Discovery is the UK's national collections portal for archives. It houses over 33 million records, of which 1/3 come from UK archives. And I think this is a fact that not everyone, I think, appreciates, that Discovery is not just the catalogue of the National Archives. It is a national collections portal, and we do have records from over 500 archive services on Discovery currently. So one search in Discovery can sort of bring together records from those archive services. And so with Discovery, we are able to present diverse histories from different communities on a central platform, enriching our national narrative with voices from many different backgrounds and lived experiences. And I think that was really highlighted as well in the first presentation today, where the project worked so well to present the lived experience from the Windrush generation in the local area. And sort of by putting collections information together on a search portal like Discovery, I think we're able to kind of unify and present our diverse histories from all different communities and all different backgrounds. And Discovery also has quite the international reach. It averages about 20,000 users per day, but obviously during this year where we've all been in lockdown, and travel has been travel hasn't really been allowed, that has actually gone up to about 35,000 users per day. So there really is an international reach for discovery of researchers using it to conduct research. I will actually, I think this might be my last slide before I'm going to move on and just give you a little kind of tour of discovery and also give you a little demo of Manage Your Collections. So Manage Your Collections exists within Discovery. So it's a free and flexible web-based tool allowing UK archives to add their collections information to Discovery. So we have a custom Excel template and archives can catalogue information about their collections into that template and upload the collection to Discovery. It also has the functionality to allow you to edit individual records in the browser, download collections to make bulk updates, and also export your data. And really, I think what it goes to show is sort of, we tried to create a very low bar to entry. We didn't want this to be a complicated tool. And we have, I think, over about 250 archives use the tool at the moment. And we do, the general feedback is that it is very user friendly and easy to use. And hopefully we'll see that when I demo it for everyone in a moment. So what I'm going to do now is quickly switch to Discovery. So hopefully you're all now seeing the landing page for Discovery. If you're not, someone shout. And I can put these links into the chat later on, but you'll just see that for those of you not familiar with Discovery, I'm just on discovery.nationalarchives.gov.uk. And so here we have the search portal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search on a collection from a community archive that uploaded a collection to Discovery using Manage Your Collections earlier this year. So it was from the Stratton Local History Collection. And so you can see it's the first result here on Discovery. And this is their catalogue description. And so what you can do with Discovery is you can upload information about your collection to the system. It doesn't have the ability to hold sort of digital media. So you can't sort of upload images, digitized images from your archive. But what you can do is you can put descriptions of the digital media onto Discovery, basically as a signpost, just to tell researchers, you know, this collection exists, you know, it's held, so you'll see on the right hand side here, it says this record is held by Stratton Local History Society. So it's very clear that, you know, this record is held by another archive that isn't the National Archives, and then there are ways to be able, if you were a researcher, to be able to contact that archive and say, you know, I'm interested in this collection. So basically what you can do with this sort of text description of your collection is signpost it for researchers. And the system has the ability, you'll see here that there's a URL link, and so that links out directly to Stratton's website. So if I click on that, we're now on Stratton Local History Society's website, and you can dive right into, you know, their photo archive, village history and all sorts. So it's a really good way to signpost, and you'll see here that you can describe information about the collection, and then information about, you know, the village and the local history society. And so this isn't the type of presentation where I'm going to, you know, go into sort of how we catalogue archive collections, because, you know, that's another webinar in itself. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, I'll just say that archive catalogues, are catalogued to a hierarchy. So we start at the very top and then we can just drill down into smaller and smaller pieces. So what I've done is I've drilled down into the different sort of information that that Spratton have about their archive, and I just want to show you this first sort of series where it's the Spratton men who fought in the First World War, and then we can drill down a bit deeper and we can look at the biographies of the Spratton men who served in the First World War. And so what they've done is they've catalogued individual information about the men who fought in the war from their village. They've conducted research on them. And so if we go on to one, you'll see that it just gives his name, it gives his regiment, and then it links to their website. And so what they were able to do with this, so they have biographies of the men who fought in the war and images, where available. So what they were able to do with their catalogue on Discovery was, just signpost people to it with linking out to their website, which has the biography of the man. And so that can be done, if archives have Flickr websites where they upload their digital media. You can put links to your own website, to Flickr, anything that's going to be useful to a researcher to basically just, let them discover your collection. So I think I've got enough time. I just want to spend a couple of minutes actually just showing you the system and how it works, because I often find with these things, you can talk about something, but without sometimes visualizing it, you can't really quite understand or grasp what it is. So this is a sneak peek into a Manage Your Collections account. So I am the Royal Institution of Great Britain this afternoon. I'm in the test account, so anything that I upload won't actually publish to Discovery, so we're fine. What an archive does is they register for an account with Manage Your Collections, and then we give them access to their archive. And within that, you have your basically your index, your contents page of collections. And what I just want to show you today is the upload process, because I think it's pretty straightforward, hopefully. And it's not just because I've done it, about 100 times. I do think that it's quite a straightforward way. Now, this is going to be a bit slow just because we're on the test system, so it's not as fast as the normal system. So all we do is we're going to upload a file. We're going to choose our file from the computer. So I'm just going to choose this one. I mean, what could go wrong with a live demo? Hopefully this will work. We'll see. I'm going to click upload. And then you'll see that a yellow banner has appeared and it's asking us to go to view history. And then you'll see that there's a button waiting for me to preview and approve. So I'm going to click on that. It gives you just, a sample, just allows you to check a sample record. You hit approve, and then a button's going to appear that says view in Discovery, and then that's it, you've published your collection to Discovery. Hopefully this is the test system for Discovery, so this could be quite slow, but hopefully we might be able to see. There we go. So that is it published on Discovery. So that's sort of, a few steps of the process, and we've published a collection to Discovery. And so obviously I make that look really simple because, I've used the system a lot, but if I just sort of go back to my presentation, we are here for guidance and support. So we answer inquiries and we offer guidance to archives via email or telephone. Again, I can put our email address in the chat. We give advice and we give guidance on cataloguing your archive collection and how you might structure your catalogue data using the Manage Your Collections template. We appreciate that not everyone knows how to confidently use Excel, so we can offer training and support with that. And we can also talk to you about what information you might put on Discovery. You know, some people put their entire archive, whereas if someone's already got, you know, an online catalogue, then they might just put a very broad description of their catalogue onto Discovery with a link to their website, just to let researchers know, you know, that it exists. We offer training sessions, so obviously at the moment these are all online. We run webinars. You know, hopefully in 2021 we can get back to in-person workshops, because it's always fantastic to see people and you know, offer in-person guidance. And we also have a set of web pages that I will also can put the link to in the chat, and so that goes through, you know, the functionality of the system and has sort of help pages and stuff. And I just also want to flag, and I can put the link to this in the chat as well, or I can send my slides around if that's useful. So we have published this summer case studies from archives that use Manage Your Collections. And so there's 4 of them, and these are 4 institutions who have limited resources and or rely on volunteer support. And so use Manage Your Collections as a free way to share details about their collections online. And with that, I will stop. So we've got time for questions and just, you know, a general chat. So yeah, that's that. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Caroline. I have to say, we did have a session with yourselves earlier on in the year online with the Southwest Community Archive and Heritage Group Network, and it was really helpful, and we had some really good feedback from some of our groups as to being able to get into this information again and being able to make it functionable in this. You know, people are finding they're having to convert their archives over to a digital platform, especially as we don't know how long, you know, reading rooms are going to be shut and access to archives is going to be as it is at the moment, because I know some of sort of the bigger institutions are still shut or have very limited reading room access. So communities are really kind of struggling in this time, and the digital technology brings a whole new world open to them, and being able to give people access to what they have. So that's brilliant. Right, I noticed we did have a couple of questions, I think, in the chat. I think Jessica's, you answered her question along the way.
Okay, great.
But Audrey had a question, can you search for any digital archives on Discovery?
So you can search for both. So we actually, we did have, I think it was last week I noticed a digital only archive uploaded their collection to Discovery. So you can, it is both. It's sort of, analog archives, digital archives and hybrid archives. So yeah.
Brilliant. And I know Lorna's asked, could you show an example of an Excel sheet?
Oh yeah, I can do. So let me just grab one up and then I can share my screen. Sorry, I'm just trying to scroll through my folders. I promise you they are organised. Okay, so I'll show you the collection that I uploaded. I will just share my screen and I'll show you what that looks like in the Excel spreadsheet.
Brilliant.
Okay. So I'm going to share that. So hopefully now you should be able to just see the Excel spreadsheet. So all it is we have the column headers at the very top in row 1, and then So these column headers are based on ISAG, which is the international standard for describing archives, and we offer support and guidance on this, because we don't expect people to know ISAG inside out when they begin. And then so you can just you'll see here that the very top level on row 2 is just information about the whole collection. So you'll see it says a collection of local history material collected by Sylvia Greenwood, and then it just sort of lists the information. And then we get down a bit lower, and it's sort of individual items in the collection, and then we have some date information, we have some reference code information just to help researchers, and the archive sort of know what you're on about when you want to come and look at something. And then some can look a bit overwhelming because I think there's 24 data points on the spreadsheet, but you only need to fill out 6 data points for a collection to upload, so it's not an overwhelming task. But yeah, hopefully that's useful just to see.
Brilliant, thank you. Joe, did you put your hand up first? No? Okay, we go to Jackie.
Oh, hello, right. Yes, I'm the London and North Western Railway Society today, and we're just about to embark on starting on Manage Your Collections. We've got the ARCON number, we've made contact, and we've got access to the website pages now. What we are thinking about now, because I'm a very experienced user of archives and I've been using Discovery for a long time, we are now about to embark on the procedure of looking at our catalogue and trying to make it more searchable before we put it on Manage Your Collections. What we're looking at now is the keywords that people will be searching on, and to make sure that they're in the title.
Yes, yeah. Because
that's so important.
Very important, yeah.
How does, in the scope and context section, how does Discovery search that? Will it be picked up if we put things in the scope and content, or is it better to put things in the title?
Yeah, so both. So if you can, so Discovery is a really powerful search on, there is a subject term that you can use in the spreadsheet, but Discovery doesn't actually search on that subject. So any keywords that you want to be picked up, put them in the scope and content field, and then if you can, the title, but obviously you don't want the title to be sort of too long, but it will pick up either in the scope and content field or the title field. And another thing to think about is if you can have really good dates, because if you have if you can put your start date and your end date in for collections, then Discovery will pick those up in the advanced search function as well. So they're probably the 3 key fields, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, we do have the usual problems of large volumes, things like shed books where you've got dates of birth, and we've got to be careful about the start dates of the volumes, but we can put that in the actual scope and content descriptions, I think. So we've got better, so a volume that's perhaps relating from 1896, but could have been catalogued as starting at 1833 because that's the first date of birth of one of the staff members. So
please feel free to send me your spreadsheet before you upload it if you want me to have a look at it. And just provide any guidance. That's fine.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. Yeah.
No problem.
Brilliant. Well, we have a few more minutes left this afternoon. If anybody has any further questions, points of discussion to bring up with any of the speakers or anyone left in the room. No? Says Caroline's busy putting everything in the chat as we speak.
I'll stop spamming you with links now.
All very, very useful, so all appreciated. And if nobody has any further questions, oh, Joe?
I was just going to say, after my presentation, and Milton sent me a very nice note saying he wants to have a conversation with me about setting up a website, you know, with an archive. And I'm thinking, I'm probably not the best person to speak to. I'm delighted to chat to him, but I'm going to suggest he goes through to the, you know, to your, basically your website where we found all the information in the first place, and then contacts the sorts of people that we did, you know, the local, you know, maybe Huddersfield archives, or a local college or something. So I wouldn't want him to think that I'm an expert. We're just an office who found our way to know-how, almost, as I say, by finding the right people at the right time. So it's really useful. The information that your organisation has online is very useful, and it also links to other, you know, the National Archives, etc. information. So I will contact Milton, but I think it's very useful for anybody wanting to do this sort of thing to use the existing information out there.
Brilliant. Thank you, Joe. Liz, do you have a question or a comment? Got your hand up? No?
No questions.
Right, okay, brilliant. I just don't want to miss anybody.
Oh, I think Mark's hand's just gone up again, hasn't it?
Sharon's has gone up.
I just wanted to say thank you for this afternoon. It's been most informative, learning about other projects, and indeed the information from National Archives and on Digital Preservation Coalition. I think that's something that I didn't really know much about. I know the National Archives, of course, but you know, I have various hats, if you like, and you know, I'm in the local history society. The local history society is currently cataloguing their collection, so I think looking at discovery will be fantastic for them as a way of getting more information out there to people on what we've got in our collection, because you know, it's been sitting in someone's loft pretty much, you know, as I think quite often happens, and no one knows it's there. You know, people know there's an archive, but what's in it, no one knows. So that would be fantastic, sort of working with National Archives and Discovery on that. And yeah, the course sounds very good. I'm sure I'll have to sign up for that, because that sounds very most worthwhile. And I can think of so many people that actually would benefit from such a course. So thank you very much for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you. Sharon, did you have your hand up?
No, it wasn't me.
It wasn't you. It keeps coming up on my screen. It must be that box. The haunted hand. Well, I think
Heather's hand's gone up on my screen. I don't know, is that?
No, it's not on mine.
Not on your.
They're playing with us now with these hands up, aren't they?
Is your hand up, Heather, or is?
Yes, it is.
Brilliant.
Okay, I was just going to say that with the archive that we did with Berkeley's local TV, when we scanned everything, we deposited it at the Heritage Key University Archive in a temporary way, and we made everything compatible with their system using Palm. So using that template that Caroline kindly shared. My question is this, and it's twofold. One, could we possibly manage your collections as a way of just drawing attention to the Windrush the years after archive deposited within a larger institution's archive? And secondly, could we also manage your collections if we had the capacity to bring to wider attention 9 years worth of grassroots video making by Berkeley's local television, and show so that other people elsewhere could access that material?
Yeah, absolutely. So the information.
That's the end of my.
Yeah. Yes, to both. So for the first one, if the archive put the information online via Calm, then you are able to still put that collection on Discovery. That is what a lot of archives do. They kind of have their collections on Discovery as another means of access, just to reach a new, completely different audience base. And so that's possible. You can, if the data is in Calm, then you can export that out of Calm and upload that into Discovery just fine. And then yes, if you, with your other audiovisual collections about the community, you can provide a description of those to put on Discovery. And then if you've got a website, if your community group has got a website, then you can link to your website from that. So yeah, please feel free to email me if you want to follow up on those, because I can provide more guidance, and yeah, we can have a chat about that.
Yes, that's really exciting. Thank you.
No problem.
Brilliant. I think that's everyone covered. So it's left to me to draw this to a close today. I'd just like to give a massive thank you to everyone that's participated today, to all of our speakers and those that have come along with our audience and inputted in. It's been another amazing afternoon of being able to share information and ideas, and I'm sure we're all going away with lots of scribbled notes as to what we're going to catch up with and websites to visit, which has really been a massive high point for these webinars. Would like to give a massive thank you to all of the CARGE committee, all the behind the scenes emails and organising that goes into this. None of this would be possible without us all here. And just to say that our next webinar that is planned, giving a quick plug over to our Mr. Butler, the next webinar we've going to be for the 1st of February. And it's going to be at the beginning for LGBT History Month. So hopefully the details will be back up on our website, so you can book on and come and join us in February. Obviously watch all our social media channels to see what's going on and to see all the new links and information that everybody's sharing. And I'll give a quick plug to me and Audrey's networks. Down here in the Southwest, we have a Community Archives Network, and up in Scotland, feel free to come along and join us. We're on Facebook down in the Southwest, and Audrey's on Twitter up in the North. But it's just about sharing and keeping all of these community records safe and keep them coming into the public arena. So everybody have a safe and happy Christmas, and we'll see you all in the new year.
Brilliant.
Don't know if Jane wants to say anything.
No, just excellent afternoon. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Brilliant. Take care, everybody.
Yeah. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.